Greetings, this is the Drewsky, and welcome to the first episode of the Drewsky Show on this September 5th, 2010. Now, don't expect anything extravagant on the show, as everything on here is done by yours truly. From the camera to the graphics behind here, to all the research and editing, is done by the Drewsky. However, Drewsky is not a trained actor, nor is he a television personality. Drewsky is just an everyday person working full-time to support the family and is doing this strictly as a hobby. So, let's get right to it, shall we? Now, with the format of the show, Drewsky will read and respond to comments and emails on previous shows. So, let's see what is here. Oh hell, there's nothing to read because this is the first frickin' show. So, let's get to the topic of the first episode.
Come take my hand, come take my hand. We'll walk this road together through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm.
December 21st, 2012. The end of the world. Wait. The supposed end of the world. The Mayans have predicted it, there are inscriptions in the Great Pyramids, and apparently others are saying it's in the Bible as well. Hasn't there already been an end of the world several times already? And what's to say that this is any different? One of the most recent of these ends was the Y2K fiasco. The big hoopla was that all the electronic devices was going to freeze once the year turned 2000. And what happened? The big New Year's ball in New York City lost power at that final second when it turned from 1999 to 2000. Run for your lives! The New York ball is off. Secondly, a lot of fanatics believed that the change of the new millennium would call for the destruction of the planet. You assholes. The beginning of the millennium was 2001, not the year 2000. Thirdly, there are no references anywhere in history or documentation to substantiate anything was going to happen. But, however, the Drewsky does have a little story to tell, so grab your popcorn. The Drewsky can wait. Are you back? Are you going to share that with the Drewsky? Ah, right. That's what the Drewsky's talking about. Enough of that. Drewsky needs to wash it down. Ah, that's good. Okay then. During December of the year 1999, the Drewsky had some conversations about Y2K. Drewsky said, if the end of the world does happen, it will not happen at midnight. It'll wait till the entire planet has celebrated the new year before anything happens. So, about 4 or 5 a.m., that's when it'll happen, if it happens. Now, on the night of New Year's Eve, or the morning of New Year's Day, if you will, Drewsky was snug asleep in his bed, and all of a sudden, he woke up at about 6 a.m. in his bed shaking. Not for the reason that he wanted it to shake, though. There was a small earthquake that occurred in the area. But the first thing that the Drewsky said when it was happening was, "What the fuck? Drewsky was just kidding!" Fortunately, it wasn't the end of the world. It was, however, the first earthquake that the Drewsky had ever experienced. Albeit, it was only a small one. Now, back to the topic of 2012. What do they say could happen? Solar flares, earthquakes, polar shifts, comet impacts, Planet X collision, galactic center crossing, tsunamis, etc., etc., etc. Now, Drewsky has seen stories that we were approaching a solar maximum with our sun, and that we are due for a large solar flare. So, if that does happen, we will all revert back to the 70s. So get out your platforms, your big-ass afro hair for the year 2000. Also, California should be due for another big earthquake. Maybe even the big one. If that's true, it's time to go to Vegas to drown your sorrow before Vegas drowns in the Pacific Ocean. Whatever might happen, there's enough imagination in the world to believe anything can happen. Either way, Drewsky will be celebrating Christmas early that year because he is not taking any chances.
I'm not afraid to take a stand, everybody.
Now, www.december212012.com is a website dedicated to the 2012 apocalypse, giving different information on several things which are being done to prepare for the end. Now, this one link caught the Drewskys' attention. Personal seed bank for 2012. Now, knowing how the Drewskys' mind works, the first thing that was thought of was, personal seed. Some sort of sperm bank to store DNA for after the disaster. But, after reading it, you will find that it actually is a seed bank for plants. Good idea. But, let the Drewsky give a word of advice to those doing the bank. No seedless grapes or seedless watermelons. Now, this other website, the Drewsky just had to show to everyone. www.hardenedstructures.com. Now, the Drewsky does have a hardened structure somewhere else, but that's for another time. But here, they are actually selling bunker complexes for the 2012 disaster. Designed for the high winds, solar flares, and earthquakes, among some of the other things that could happen. Now, the Drewsky has two thoughts. One, if you want one, buy now, because a structure this complex will need 2 years left to build. And who's to say the disaster won't begin before December 21st? And two, now these structures are designed to hold up to 500 people. So, the Drewsky will take one, and he'll be taking applications for people to live with him. The only requirement to join is that you must have Playboy Bunny qualifications, and the only rule is to preserve storage space for enough food. Clothes will not be permitted on the premises. So, whatever might happen, there's enough imagination in the world to believe anything can happen. And this is the Drewsky's rendition of what will happen in 2012. The solar maximum will heat the Earth's core till it's a near unstable condition, but will remain stable. However, North Korea will attempt another nuclear test in its underground cavern, but it will be a much larger scale than they have done previously. Something will go wrong, and the resulting explosion will destabilize the crust's already fragile condition, causing the tectonic plates to start the shift. The sudden shifts will then destabilize the magnetic poles, and they will ultimately flip upon each other. Also, the shifting will result in earthquakes and tsunamis all over the planet. The world will end as we know it. But the human race will survive and continue to rebuild new civilizations and countries with the Drewsky as its inspiration. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, so Drewsky encourages you to make your own conclusions on what might or might not happen on December 21st, 2012. And feel free to email your opinions on the Drewsky Show at hotmail.ca.
It's the way that I wanna live. It's I can do just what I feel.
So let us reflect a moment and share a bit of poetry. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds, snakes, and aeroplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. Eye of a hurricane, listen to yourself churn. World serves its own needs. Dummies serve your own needs. Feed it off an ox's beak. Grunt, no strength. Ladder starts to clatter. With fear, fight down height. Wire in a fire, representing 7 games, a government for hire, and a combat site. Left of west and coming in a hurry, with a furries breathing down your neck. Team by team, reporters baffled, trumped, tethered, cropped. Look at that low playing. Fine then. Uh-oh, overflow, population, common food, but it'll do. Save yourself, serve yourself. World serves its own needs. Listen to your heart bleed, dummy, with the rapture and the revered and the right. You vitriolic, patriotic, slam, fight, bright light, feeling pretty sight. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Inspiring. The end of the world. Great big C. So, we've come to the end of the show. If you have any suggestions for topics, or if you have any questions for the Drewsky, send an email or leave a comment. And remember, in life, we all must walk in with fear, but walk out a believer.